Yo, what up everyone? In this video, I want to recap and review some trades that I took. I want to review some trades that we took in the Discord. I also want to go over market context, some very important psychology tips that I'm going to tie into some recent examples with the market. There's some really good setups that we can learn off of and better prepare ourselves for future trades. Before we get into it though, if you haven't already, I'm going to link my Instagram in the description below. I recommend following it. I post daily trading recaps on here, along with very good trading tips and tricks that you're really not going to find anywhere else. The link is in the description below. You're missing out if you're not following it at Ameritrade. But besides that, let's get right into this recap. There's a lot of good lessons to get into. First thing I want to go over is the pre-market plan from Monday's action. I post these every single day in the Discord of the setups I'm watching and levels I'm looking to trade around. Now, the first one was on NQ, the NASDAQ. You all know I trade QQQ options off of this. And I do have to say there's no better feeling in trading when you plan for something the night prior, the day of, and you execute that trade perfectly without emotions. The market cooperates, you respect your risk, and you make very good profit off of it. It's a very satisfying feeling, and the trades that work out the best usually work out this way just because you could properly read the context. So here we had NQ. It was selling off aggressively from supply overnight. Buyers really weren't showing up, and I was invalidating the demand zones that we had prior to the market open. So the first thing I was watching for was a break below the 15173 area, which is this yellow line over here, to play puts, as there's not much holding up until the 15086 demand zone, which could be used as a target. We had demand a little lower, and I said again, as traders, we must react to the reactions in the market. We don't try and predict. If you try and predict, your emotions are going to get involved instead of react to what the market's giving you. So let me maximize this. One point I want to make is, look at this. We went over the daily average of volume traded today. 534,000 lots traded compared to a daily average of 522, which is already a little high compared to the past 2 weeks action. But we had this demand zone. What I liked here was we were selling off from supply overnight. We had demand in this white space that we invalidated and moved lower. And then we had this zone where I wanted to play puts, not necessarily below the demand, but below this support level. It was a key level at 15172. As, let me go out to a different time frame. If we got below this level, which was this yellow line, in this white space, there's really nothing stopping price from moving into the further demand zone, because you could use these as magnets where price could potentially, gravitate towards. So the market opened up, the plan was set in stone, and now our job and my job as traders is to just react to what the market gives you. So I wanted to break below this. I played QQQ puts. I played the 369 puts. I got one entry. This was a botched trade a little bit. I got long puts at 934, this candle right here, and I took profit at the 936 candle. It was only a 17-cent gain on the contracts, which I'll never complain about, but I didn't like how it really kind of felt a little too early. Tesla was also pretty strong, and my emotions kind of got involved in this trade a little prematurely, to be completely honest. But the next best trade was at 936. I played the QQQ 369 puts at $1.41. So what I saw here was, we were below this puts line, and at the 936 candle, the market tried moving up, and there was a very heavy seller sitting there absorbing all the buy orders, trying to bring us up. Those buyers failed. The buyers in the first 2 minutes failed, and we had aggressive selling with the previous context. I was comfortable enough to play puts at this 937 candle. My stop was above the 936 candle, and I was targeting this demand zone. So from a risk to reward perspective, it was over 3-1, which is ideally what I want to target. And then once the trade is put on, my entry is in place, my stop loss is in place, and my target's in place. So aggressively just moved into this demand zone. As soon as we hit this at 942, I got out my full position at $1.78. So I made almost 40 cents on these contracts. And this is the beauty with trading SPY and QQQ, is you could get fast moves. You could easily trade 100, 200, 300 contracts without really affecting the market. And a quick 5-minute trade where you're making 40 cents is making you, $3 grand, $4 grand, $5 grand. So I just love trading this. It works extremely well. Clean move into this demand zone. And honestly, if you see my past videos, I don't like flipping from short to long to short. I was in this trade short, took profits at demand. If I'm taking profits down here, I'm not looking to flip right away as soon as we hit demand and try to catch a long position on a falling knife like this, even though it worked out. So ideally, I know some members took this to the long side and very good trade, very good analysis. But for me, with the past context of sellers being in control, I use this demand zone to take profits on my short position versus looking to enter a new long position. Although we did double bottom, we formed a nice little basing period, consolidation, and then volume started taking off once we moved out of the zone and we had a clean rally. Volume, like I said earlier, was pretty high, but we were very balanced all day. So the best setups happened in the first let's call it hour and a half. And then after that is what I call FOMO hours. Volume died out, and we're in no man's land where there's really no context to base, a trade off of. So if you took a short in the morning, good. If you took it long at demand, even better. That was a nice rally to the upside. So beautiful trades on QQQ today. And there was another setup on ES. Let me pull up the pre-market plan. We did a webinar last night. We usually do them every Sunday. I do live charting. I go over some setups that I'm watching. And I just mentally prepare not only myself, but other members in the Discord. So we were rejecting off of this key 446575 supply zone. I went over this in the webinar, and it is causing very decent selling pressure. So I said I'm feeling pretty bearish right now. This supply zone, let me just make this a little bigger, especially with a downtrend line, was extremely key. And at this point, sellers had control. And I wish this move happened when the market was open, because this was the sell-off that, I played on QQQ today, happened overnight. Instead, on ES, we opened right at demand. And I said, what I'm watching for is the intraday action. If it's similar to 2 weeks ago, I'd be interested in playing puts, targeting this demand zone. Then I also said demand is at 4427. We had a bunch of zones lower and important imbalances all to the downside that I said are all around watch and can bounce the market. And then I said I'm watching the 4427, 4415 demand to hold in the first hour today and may look to play calls as we could attempt to go for that 4465 supply zone. So what I like here was, look at the volume on ES. In the morning it was decent and it was developing throughout the day. But this was the daily average, if you remember from last week, before the higher volume conditions started coming in. So I would say it's about average volume. We opened up, sold off right into this demand zone. I know some members took this long, but at the point I was in NQ short, I'm not going to go long ES over here as well. So when NQ hit demand, ES hit demand with it. So that kind of gives me a broader sense of confirmation and more context to base it off of, knowing a bunch of indices are at demand. And if I were to look at the equities, for example, Tesla, what else was there? Facebook, AMD, Nvidia, they were all also at demand at the same time. ES and NQ were at demand. That gives me a high probability that the market can bounce, which is why I also covered my short position, my put position. And then ES did bounce off this demand zone. Unfortunately, we didn't get the continuation that we liked into this key supply zone. And this is pretty much a good definition of a balanced intraday action where we actually double bottomed at this demand around 1231. And that gave another good long entry. But besides that, if you're trading in no man's land when volatility is dead, you're going to have a tough time. And I guarantee you're going to be trading off your emotions, whether it be FOMO, whether it be greed or fear. And 9 times out of 10, 8 times out of 10, guarantee you're going to take a losing trade if you didn't enter or be a participant when you should have been a participant. Instead, a lot of people try to become participants when the theme is sitting on the sideline. And Tuesday's action, everything went according to plan. It was very easy to read the context. But one thing I have to say is you could plan all you want, come up with tons of different scenarios, tons of different plans. But if you hesitate to execute or you let your emotions get involved, you're going to make trading so much harder on yourself. Let's go over the ES plan. I said I'm watching this 4388 and 3/4 demand zone. Above/below this will determine if I'm interested in playing upside or downside action. So this zone right here, 4388, was the basically line in the sand for me today. Above it, I was feeling pretty bullish to go into supply. Below it, I was pretty bearish, targeting demand to play puts. I said if below and heavy selling pressure, I'm going to focus on puts, first targeting the 4369, and then we could have a hard sell-off into the 4342, 4336, and 4325 demand zones. Those were extremely, extremely key for us to test and for us to hold. Now, I didn't trade SPY, but this was a good setup because I actually traded QQQ again today 2 times. ES had 2.2 million lots traded compared to a daily average of 1.4. So there was some extremely heavy volume in the market today. These puts absolutely exploded. If I pull up SPY puts up here, from low to high, these went up 566%. By the time we got below that 4388 level, these went up 221%. So the contracts went up pretty fast. We got below this 4388. Now this is where the valid entry could have been once we retested and failed. On days like today where the context is extremely weak, I'm kind of against being a buyer unless buyers really prove themselves to me in some sort of confirmation. I have multiple different ways that I look for. But with this weak context, in my opinion, shorts are the best things to do. And you could short on failed rallies, especially when old support becomes resistance. When we come back to test a level that acted as an area that buyers were interested. So we moved up and then we started selling back off perfectly according to plan into this 4369. I know a few members took profits here. And with this such weak context, this is where you could get the bigger moves if you maybe scale out and go for a bigger move only when the context is this weak, especially with supply forming near the highs. And we sold off by end of day into this 4342 zone. And at this point, like I said, it's not acceptable for me to be a first buyer. Instead, let it bounce and then let buyers prove themselves that they have some intention to bring the market back up. We double bottomed at this demand zone and we balanced going into the close. Same exact thing on NQ and QQQ. We had supply forming overnight. We were coming into demand. I said what's key today is this 1497.5 demand zone. We must bounce at it. If it doesn't bring buyers, if we create supply inside it, or if we slice through demand, I'm open to playing puts / downside action, targeting the demand zone lower at 14843 and 14755. And the SPY ES thesis is going to support this NQ and QQQ thesis, as pretty much if that happens, majority of the equities are going to be weak. Now I took a losing trade. This is what I mean about hesitating and just follow the plan without emotions. This is a perfect example of what I did today and what you all not to do, because it's a good example of what you should avoid and not do. So the market opened up and I saw some very heavy selling absorption in the first 10 minutes of the market open. Let's call it 15 minutes. Contracts, I think I was playing the QQQ 365 puts at this point, or 364 puts, something like that. And I had them at $2. I had my contracts ready to go. My finger was on the buy button. I hesitated for some reason. I cannot figure out why after the fact, but I did not push the buy button. Although my plan was working out perfectly, context was weak, got my confirmation signals, yet something in my brain stopped me from putting the trade on. That's where emotions get involved. So I hesitated and I saw the market sell off and I saw my contracts go at this point. This is what it looked like. We came into the demand. That would have been a good target if we were short. I saw my contracts were up like $2.80. And if you're trading 100 contracts, 200 contracts, an 80-cent move is, good money. So I saw that. I had complete FOMO. I said, I wish I took this trade. And then I revenge traded. I said, we're at this 14917 demand zone. Even though it's weak context, I knew this subconsciously. I still decided to play QQQ calls here, anticipating a move up that we were bouncing off of this demand zone, especially with ES had that extremely weak action. And at the point I longed it, we were coming below the 4388 zone. So my plan worked, but I let my emotions get involved. I took QQQ long and I stopped out at this 10 o'clock candle for a small, not a big loss, but a decent loss. I think it was 32 cents on the contracts. Now, this point, the next candle, we started selling off. And if you recall the plan, I said if it doesn't bring buyers or we create supply inside or slice through demand, I'm open to playing puts at this demand zone. Now, this is what's key. If the market gets you bad, think of what you can do to focus on the next best setup, react to it, and understand the context. This rally right here failed, which also with the current past context of weak buying, heavy selling, this also validated another point with that. At the same time, ES was slicing through that 8 and 3/4 level. So I flipped the puts at this point. My stop was pretty wide at the 14950 area, probably 14940 if I saw it come up to that. And we got that aggressive push down, and I made all my money back and then some that I lost on the call position that was based off of my emotions. But it's just switching or flipping like a switch, reacting to the market. This was a good enough signal for me to play short, not revenge trade, not trade off my emotions, instead trade off facts. And that was a winning trade. I say it all the time. 90% of my losses come from when I trade based off of my emotions. We're human. It's natural. We all go through it. The key is controlling it. I took profits at this demand zone. In hindsight, I probably should have scaled out and anticipated a bigger move, like I mentioned with SPY, because we did get that all-day sell-off, and we came into that key demand zone just like SPY did, and we balanced going into the close. So the key takeaway points I want you to go here with is if you take a loss, brush it off, focus on the next best setup. If you take a loss based off of your emotions, it sucks, and there's no longevity in your trading if you trade based off of what you feel like is going to happen. So don't have FOMO, don't trade with emotions. You take a loss, brush it off, and plan, understand the context, and execute without any of those things that I just said. And you're going to be on your way to profitability, and you're going to see your profits completely improve and your performance completely improve in your journal. So I think I'm going to leave you all off on that note. Very good setups. When the market's like this, I prefer trading SPY and QQQ versus other equities, because I know other equities are going to depend on what the market or what the indices are doing. So if you're looking to trade an indice, make sure you're getting confirmation by the market, as there was a lot of blood today and there really wasn't any valuable reason to play a bullish move off of demand with this such weak context. But I hope this video helped. It's just me just spitting on these charts, going over the context, going over some setups that I took, didn't take, my emotions. If it helps, let me know. Drop a comment, subscribe. And if you really want to learn more, check out the links in the description below. I offer a very in-depth and educational course that will come with access to the Discord at no extra cost. But besides that, I'm ending it. Peace out.